Who let this filthy black woman in here? You're dirtying my mat!
Wanda kept walking, straight to the center.
I'm here for my grandson. You owe him an explanation.
Brock turned to his students.
That useless black kid? Crybaby ran home to grandma. What are you gonna do, beat me up?
You'll regret it.
She said calmly. Brock's smile vanished. A 62-year-old woman was challenging him.
You can't
He
hit
snatched hundreds,
One shot!
slammed
One
them in
shot!
her face.
Hit
Bills hit the mat. Wanda set her purse down. Left foot back, arms open, still. His trainer screamed. Too late.
Stop! Stop!
What that trainer saw in her stance shattered everything Brock believed about power, pride, and the woman he'd humiliated. Garrison Heights sits 6 miles south of Charlotte, North Carolina. Strip malls with cracked parking lots. A Baptist church with a leaking roof. A community center where the air conditioning died 2 summers ago and nobody fixed it. This is where Wanda Moore lives. 62 years old. 5'4". A slight limp in her left knee from an injury that never healed right. She wears reading glasses on a chain around her neck and keeps her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Every Sunday she brings sweet potato pie to church. Every weekday she walks her grandson to the bus stop, even though he tells her he's too old for that. If you passed her on the street, you wouldn't look twice. That's the thing about Wanda Moore. Nobody looks twice. Nobody has for 23 years. And that's exactly how she wants it. But 23 years ago, Wanda Moore was someone else entirely. They called her the Phantom. 5-time national karate champion. 3-time Pan American gold medalist. A 3rd-degree black belt in Shotokan karate by age 26. Sports Illustrated ran a 2-page feature on her in 1989. The headline read, "The Woman Who Fights Like Smoke. You see her, then you don't." She retired in 2003. No announcement. No farewell fight. Her husband died of cancer that spring, and Wanda folded her black belt, placed it in a cedar chest, and closed the lid. She never opened it again. She raised her daughter, Diane, alone. When Diane started driving long-haul trucks to pay the bills, Wanda took over raising Elijah. That boy became her whole world. Elijah Moore, 18, tall, quiet, built like a runner. He discovered martial arts through YouTube clips, ironically through Brock Anderson's channel. He watched those videos the way some kids watch superhero movies. Eyes wide, jaw tight, hungry. He begged Wanda for months. "Grandma, just let me try one class." She always changed the subject. She had her reasons she never explained. Eventually she gave in. She scraped together $300, first month tuition at Anderson Elite Combat Academy, and drove Elijah there herself. She watched him walk through that door with his gym bag over his shoulder, standing straight, proud. She sat in the car for 20 minutes before driving home. She didn't go inside. She couldn't. She knew what gyms smelled like. She knew what that world felt like. And she had buried that woman a long time ago. For 3 weeks, Elijah came home glowing. He shadowboxed in the kitchen. He practiced stances in the backyard. He talked about combinations at dinner like other kids talk about video games. Then came Tuesday, 3:15 in the afternoon. Wanda was folding laundry when she heard the front door open. She checked the clock. Elijah's class didn't end until 5. He stood in the hallway, gym bag still zipped, face like concrete. He didn't cry. He didn't yell. He walked past her, went into his room, and closed the door. Wanda set down the laundry. She knocked once. No answer. She opened the door anyway. "What happened?" "Nothing, Grandma." "Elijah, what happened?" A long silence. Then, quiet as a whisper, He said I don't belong there. Said it in front of everyone. Told me to get my stuff and get out. Wanda's hands went still. Not shaking, still. The kind of still that comes before a storm. Did he say why? He didn't need to, Grandma. You know why. She did know. She had always known. That's exactly why she didn't want him going in the first place. She sat on the edge of his bed. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she stood up, walked to the hallway closet and took out her purse. Elijah sat up. Where are you going? To get your explanation. Grandma, don't... But Wanda Moore was already out the door. And somewhere across town, inside a gym that smelled like leather and ego, Brock Anderson was about to make the biggest mistake of his life. Wanda Moore pushed open the glass door of Anderson Elite Combat Academy at 4:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. The gym was everything she expected. Mirrored walls, heavy bags hanging in rows, a competition ring in the center. The smell of sweat and leather and something chemical, probably that spray they use on mats to pretend they're clean. 14 students were mid-drill, all white, every single one. Brock Anderson stood in the center of the ring, shirtless, wrapping his hands. He saw her reflection in the mirror before he saw her face. A black woman, 62, gray hair, walking into his gym like she had an appointment. He didn't even turn around. Hey, you lost? Door's behind you. Wanda stopped at the edge of the mat. She didn't step on it. Not yet. She set her purse strap higher on her shoulder and spoke clearly. I'm looking for the owner. My grandson was a student here. Elijah Moore. Now Brock turned. Slowly. He looked her up and down the way a man inspects something stuck to his shoe. Elijah. He said the name like it tasted bad. Yeah, I remember him. Tall kid. Couldn't throw a jab to save his life. He paid $300 for this month. You kicked him out with 2 weeks left. I want to know why. Brock tilted his head. A grin spread across his face. Not a kind one. Why? Because I run a gym, not a daycare? And I don't owe you, him, or anybody an explanation. He took a step closer. Especially not some old black woman who walks in here like she owns the place. 2 students near the heavy bags stopped hitting. They watched. Wanda didn't move, didn't blink. Give me one reason, she said. One real reason you kicked that boy out. Brock stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned to his students and raised his voice so every corner of the gym could hear him. Yo! Somebody get their grandma. She's about to embarrass herself. The laughter came fast and loud. But Wanda Moore didn't move an inch. And Brock Anderson was just getting started. Brock Anderson had been waiting for a moment exactly like this. Not consciously. Not the way you plan a vacation or a business deal. But somewhere deep in the part of his brain that understood clicks, shares, and algorithm spikes. That part knew. A 62-year-old black woman standing in the middle of his gym, refusing to leave, demanding an explanation? This was content. This was pure gold. He snapped his fingers at a student near the door. Kyle, get my phone. Ring light, too. Kyle hesitated. Coach, you sure about... Did I stutter? Phone, ring light, now. Within 30 seconds, a phone was mounted on a tripod, red light blinking. Brock positioned himself between Wanda and the camera, making sure every angle caught her face. All right, everybody. He clapped his hands twice. Gather round. We got ourselves a special guest today. Grandma here wants to know why I kicked her little grandson out of my gym. Students formed a half circle behind him. Some crossed their arms. Some grinned. A couple exchanged glances. One near the back pulled out his own phone. Brock turned back to Wanda. His voice shifted. Louder now. performed, playing directly to the lens. You want to know why, Grandma? Fine. I'll tell you why. Because your grandson had no business being here. He was slow. He was sloppy. He flinched every time someone raised a fist. He couldn't keep up with my beginners. He leaned in close enough that Wanda could smell the protein shake on his breath. Honestly, I was doing him a favor. Some people just aren't built for this. It's in the blood. You understand what I'm saying? Genetics. A ripple of laughter moved through the students. Wanda's voice came out steady, low, almost gentle. His instructor at school said he had natural talent. He practiced every single night in our backyard, rain or shine. Every night, in the backyard. Brock repeated it slowly, nodding, performing disbelief for the camera. That's adorable, truly. But this isn't a backyard, sweetheart. This is a professional training facility. And professional means standards. He pointed at the banner above the ring. Anderson Elite Combat Academy, Estameway 2018. Elite. You see that word up there? That means not everybody gets to walk through my door. He paid the same fee as everyone here. And I gave him a refund. You gave him nothing. Brock's jaw flexed. He didn't like that. He didn't like being corrected. Not in his gym, not in front of his students, and certainly not by a black woman old enough to be his grandmother. He stepped closer. Close enough to crowd her space. Close enough to make her feel small. Let me make this real simple for you. Your grandson doesn't have what it takes. You don't have what it takes. And if you don't walk out that door in the next 30 seconds, I'll have someone carry you out. Are we clear? Wanda looked up at him. She was a full head shorter. She didn't step back. No. One word. Quiet as a church bell in an empty field. Brock blinked, then laughed. A sharp, forced bark that bounced off the mirrored walls. No? Did this old woman just say no to me? He spun to his students, arms wide open. You all hearing this? Grandma just said no to me! He pressed his hand to his chest in mock shock. Oh, Lord, I'm terrified, absolutely shaking. More laughter. Louder this time. Phones were out everywhere. 4, 5, 6 of them recording. Then something shifted in Brock's face. The performance dropped away. The grin thinned into something harder. What replaced it was real. A cold, humiliated fury that had nothing to do with cameras. Because Wanda Moore wasn't scared. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She was standing on his mat, looking at him the way you look at a child throwing a tantrum. Like he was small. Like he was nothing. And every one of his students was watching. That was the thing Brock Anderson could never survive. Not bankruptcy. Not a losing record. Not bad press. The one thing that could destroy him was being made to feel insignificant by someone he considered beneath him. He walked to the front counter, opened the cash register with a bang, pulled out a thick stack of $100 bills. $10,000. His entire cash reserve. The money earmarked for next month's lease. He walked back to Wanda. Slowly. Deliberately. The gym went dead silent. You know what? I just got an idea. His voice dropped to a whisper. $10,000. Cash. Right here in my hand. He held the stack inches from her face. All you gotta do is hit me. One clean shot. Anywhere. One shot, old lady. Wanda said nothing. What, you can't even do that? He laughed, but there was nothing funny left in it. Your grandson couldn't do it either. Must run in the family. He waited for her to flinch. To cry. to turn around and shuffle out the door so he could post the clip with a clever, cruel caption underneath. Instead, Wanda Moore looked him dead in the eye. "You sure about that, baby?" 4 words, no tremor, no hesitation. Brock's face went dark red. He slammed the stack of bills across her face, hard. The money exploded off her cheek and scattered across the mat like leaves ripped apart by a storm. "Hit me!" he screamed. "Pick up that money and hit me!" Wanda didn't pick up the money. She didn't touch her cheek. She set her purse on the floor. Slowly, carefully, the way someone sets down a prayer book before standing to sing. Her left foot slid back, her right foot anchored forward. Her hands came up, open, loose, fingers slightly curved, weight centered, chin tucked. Nobody in that gym understood what they were looking at. Nobody except one man. Derek Collins had been leaning in the office doorway, arms crossed, watching in silence. 30 years in martial arts. He'd studied every fighting style. But this stance, he knew it. He'd seen it in competition footage from the 80s, in a Sports Illustrated photograph he never forgot. The Phantom. He sprinted across the gym. "Stop! Brock, stop! You don't know who she is!" Derek's voice echoed off the walls. Every student heard it. Brock heard it too. He didn't care. But for Wanda, something strange happened in that half-second between Derek's scream and Brock's first step forward. Time didn't slow down the way people describe in movies. It compressed. Like 34 years folded into a single breath. She saw her husband's face. Not dying. Smiling. Standing in the doorway of their apartment in 1988, holding the Sports Illustrated issue, shaking it in the air, laughing. "That's my girl. That's my Phantom." She saw Elijah's face 3 hours ago. Concrete, hollow. A boy who walked into a gym full of dreams and walked out carrying something he'd carry for the rest of his life. She saw her sensei's hands adjusting her stance when she was 14. Heard his voice like it was yesterday. "You do not fight with anger, Wanda. You fight with memory. Your body already knows. Trust it." She hadn't trusted it in 34 years. Her knee ached. Her knuckles were stiff. Her shoulders carried 62 years of gravity. But her feet remembered everything. Left foot back, right foot forward, weight low, hands open, breath steady. She wasn't the Phantom anymore. She was a grandmother who came here for one reason. But if this man put his hands on her, God help him. Brock charged. Brock came in fast. Right cross. Full power. The kind of punch designed to end a conversation, not start one. He expected it to land. It didn't. Wanda shifted her weight. Half an inch to the left, no more. And the fist sailed past her ear so close she could feel the wind off his knuckles. Brock's momentum carried him forward, off balance for just a fraction of a second. A fraction was all she needed. Her left hand caught his wrist. Not grabbed, guided. She redirected his arm downward in a tight circular motion, while her right palm struck the back of his elbow. A basic Shotokan redirect. Textbook, clean. Brock stumbled forward 3 steps, almost fell, caught himself on the ropes of the ring. The gym went dead quiet. Not the kind of quiet that follows a joke nobody laughed at. The kind that follows a car accident. The kind where everyone stops breathing at the same time because their brains haven't caught up with what their eyes just saw. A 62-year-old woman had just made a professional fighter miss by a hair and sent him stumbling across his own mat. Brock turned around. His face was something between confusion and fury, the expression of a man who just tripped in public and needs to believe someone pushed him. "Lucky," he said. He rolled his neck, bounced on his toes. "That was lucky, old lady." Wanda said nothing. She hadn't moved from her stance, feet planted, hands open, breathing slow. He came again. Faster this time. A jab followed by a low roundhouse kick aimed at her thigh. Textbook kickboxing combination, the kind that drops amateurs. Wanda didn't block the jab. She slipped it, chin tilting back just enough to let it pass. Then she did something that made Derek Collins grab the doorframe with both hands. She stepped into the kick. Not away from it. Into it. Her front foot advanced at a 45-degree angle, closing the distance before the kick could build full power. It caught her hip instead of her thigh. Half the impact. Manageable. In the same motion, her right hand shot forward in a palm strike that connected with Brock's solar plexus. The sound was distinct. Not a slap. Not a thud. A deep, compressed pop. Like someone dropping a sandbag from a height. Brock's lungs emptied. His eyes went wide. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Before he could recover, Wanda's left hand gripped his right shoulder. Her hip turned inward, and with a motion so smooth it looked choreographed, she executed a hip throw. Ogoshi in judo, koshinage in karate, that lifted Brock Anderson off his feet and deposited him flat on his back on the mat. The impact rattled the water bottles on the counter 20 feet away. For 3 full seconds, nobody in that gym made a sound. Not one student, not one phone beeped. The only noise was Brock wheezing on his back, staring at the ceiling, trying to remember how to breathe. Then someone whispered, "Oh my God," and the gym exploded. Students scrambled backward. 2 of them dropped their phones. One kid near the heavy bag said, "Did you see that?" to no one in particular, 3 times in a row. Derek Collins stood frozen in the doorway, both hands on his head, tears forming in his eyes. He knew exactly what he'd just witnessed. He'd seen the footage 100 times in grainy YouTube compilations and martial arts documentaries. The phantom signature? Slip, redirect, palm strike, hip throw. 4 moves, under 2 seconds. Brock rolled over, got to one knee. His face was purple. Sweat dripped off his chin. "You," he pointed at Wanda, hand shaking. "You think you're something? You think this means anything?" He charged. No technique this time. No form, pure rage, arms wide, head down, like a man trying to tackle a tree. Wanda sidestepped, 1 step to the right. As Brock's momentum carried him past, she delivered a single ridge hand strike to the side of his neck. The vagus nerve, a target every Shotokan practitioner learns in their first year. Brock's legs buckled. He dropped to both knees, then forward onto his palms. He stayed there, on all 4s, gasping, unable to stand. Wanda stepped back, 2 paces. She lowered her hands to her sides, and then she bowed, not to the crowd, not to the camera. She bowed the way her sensei taught her 48 years ago. A deep, respectful bow toward her opponent, eyes forward, spine straight. The bow that says, "This is over." The entire gym held its breath. Even the phones stopped shaking. For one long, perfect, silent moment, nobody in that room knew what to say. The gym erupted a second time, louder now. Students were screaming. Someone near the back started clapping, slow at first, then fast. A girl in a ponytail, she couldn't have been more than 19, stood on a bench and yelled, "Who is she?" Derek Collins answered, not loudly, almost to himself, but a student's phone was close enough to catch it. "That's the Phantom. That's Wanda Moore. She was the greatest female karate champion this country ever produced." That clip. Derek's whisper, his face white, his eyes glistening, would become the most replayed moment of the entire video. Within 30 minutes, 6 different angles of the fight were uploaded from 6 different phones. Students who had filmed to mock Wanda now held the very footage that would make her a legend all over again. By midnight, the clips had been stitched together, soundtracked, and reposted across every platform: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. The hashtag appeared first on a Charlotte community page at 11:47 p.m. Hashtag Grandma Stance. By morning, it was trending in all 50 states. By Wednesday, 8 million views. News stations from Atlanta to New York ran the footage. ESPN's social media account posted a side-by-side comparison: Wanda Moore at the 1989 Pan American Games and Wanda Moore in that strip mall gym 34 years later. Same stance, same speed, same devastating calm. The caption read, "Legends don't retire, they reload." Comments poured in by the hundreds of thousands. "I'm crying. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Somebody protect this woman at all costs." "She didn't even break a sweat. Brock Anderson fumbled with the wrong grandma." Wanda Moore didn't see any of it. She picked up her purse, walked out of that gym without saying another word, drove home, and made Elijah dinner. She didn't tell him what happened. He found out the same way the rest of the world did. On his phone, the next morning, staring at a video of his grandmother doing something he never knew she could do. He watched it 4 times. Then he walked into the kitchen and sat across from her without a word. He just looked at her. Really looked. Like he was seeing her for the first time. But the video wasn't the only thing waiting for Wanda that morning. At 9:14 a.m., a process server knocked on her front door and handed her a blue envelope. Brock Anderson was suing her for $250,000. The blue envelope contained 14 pages of legal language that Wanda Moore had to read 3 times before she understood what it was saying. Assault, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, loss of income, damage to professional reputation. $250,000 in compensatory damages. The plaintiff, Brock Anderson. The defendant, Wanda Moore. The narrative: a trained martial artist ambushed an unsuspecting fitness instructor during a community event. Wanda set the papers on the kitchen table and stared at them the way you stare at a doctor's report you're not ready to read. Within 48 hours, Brock Anderson transformed himself from aggressor to victim with the precision of a man who understood content better than combat. He appeared on a local Charlotte news station wearing a foam neck brace and an arm sling. His voice cracked at all the right moments. His eyes watered on cue. "I just wanted to inspire people," he told the anchor. "I run a fitness community. I help people get stronger, and this woman, she walked into my gym and attacked me. I didn't even see it coming." The station ran his edited footage. 45 seconds of carefully cut video that began the exact moment Wanda's palm struck his chest. Everything before, the insults, the racial slurs, the money slammed across her face, had been surgically removed. What remained looked damning. An elderly black woman walking into a gym. A fitness instructor trying to talk to her, and then violence. Sudden, brutal, unprovoked. The headline that night: elderly woman attacks local fitness instructor in unprovoked gym assault. It spread faster than the original video. The internet turned. Not slowly. Overnight. Comment sections that had celebrated Wanda 24 hours earlier now filled with a different kind of fury. "She should be in jail. That man could have died. Trained killer attacks innocent business owner. This is what happens when people take the law into their own hands." Wanda's church received 11 threatening phone calls in 2 days. Someone spray-painted "violent thug" on the community center wall. A parent at Elijah's school filed a complaint asking the administration to monitor him because his grandmother was clearly dangerous. Elijah came home from school that day and said nothing. He sat in his room with the door closed. The boy who had looked at his grandmother with awe 2 mornings ago now couldn't look at her at all. Not because he was ashamed of her, because he was ashamed of what the world was doing to her. And Brock Anderson? He was thriving. His subscriber count jumped from 400,000 to 1.2 million in 6 days. The supplement brand that had ghosted him came back with a bigger offer. 2 personal injury lawyers reached out volunteering to represent him. A GoFundMe titled "Justice for Brock, Victim of Gym Attack" raised $89,000 in its first week. He posted a new video from a wheelchair. Rented, not prescribed. In it, he wore the neck brace, spoke in a trembling voice, and wiped his eyes with a tissue he didn't need. "I built that gym from nothing," he said into the camera. "I gave everything to this community, and one woman took it all away in 10 seconds. He paused, let the silence sit. If you're over 60 and you feel like attacking people, maybe try a nursing home instead of my gym. 20 million views. He pinned the top comment himself. "Grandma belongs in a cage, not a gym." Wanda couldn't afford a lawyer. She had $4,000 in savings and a fixed income that barely covered groceries. The legal aid office had a 6-week waiting list. She sat at the kitchen table with the lawsuit papers spread in front of her and a calculator that kept giving her the same impossible number. Then her phone rang. A voice she recognized from Sunday service. "Wanda, this is Gail Wilson. I'm an attorney. I sit 3 pews behind you every Sunday, and I've watched that video 40 times. I'm taking your case. No charge, not a penny." Gail Wilson was not a big firm lawyer. She ran a 2-person practice out of a converted dentist's office on 4th Street. But she had 22 years of trial experience, a spine made of rebar, and one thing Brock's expensive legal team did not have: the truth. The discovery process began. Brock's attorney filed a motion demanding Wanda's complete medical history, martial arts training records, and competition background. The argument: Wanda Moore was not a helpless grandmother. She was a trained weapon who had premeditated an assault against their client. The judge allowed it. Gail filed a counter motion requesting all original unedited video files from Brock's phone and his students' devices. Brock's attorney objected. The judge noted the objection, but didn't rule immediately. The footage, the full, uncut footage that showed everything Brock did before Wanda ever raised a hand, was now the center of the case. Then something unexpected happened. Pastor Calvin Davis, who had watched the public shaming of Wanda from the sidelines, made a quiet announcement at Sunday service. He asked anyone who had ever been mistreated at Anderson Elite Combat Academy to come forward. 4 people did. 3 former students, all black, who had been kicked out under similar circumstances, and 1 white student who had witnessed Brock using racial slurs during training and quit in disgust. Each one signed a written statement. Each one was willing to testify. Gail Wilson now had witnesses, a pattern of discrimination, and a legal theory that could flip the entire case. But she still didn't have the one thing that would end it: the unedited video. Diane Moore arrived home on a Thursday night. She had driven 11 hours straight from a delivery route in Virginia. She walked through the door, dropped her keys on the counter, and found her mother sitting at the kitchen table in the dark. "Mama?" "I'm thinking about settling, Diane." "Settling? For what? You didn't do anything wrong." "I know, but this isn't just about me anymore. They're coming after Elijah at school. They spray-painted the church. I stood up, Diane. I stood up and the whole world pushed me back down." Diane sat down across from her mother. She took both of Wanda's hands in hers. "Mama, you didn't just stand up. You stood up for Elijah. For every kid that man ever humiliated. If you settle, he wins. And he'll do it again." Wanda didn't answer. She looked at the lawsuit papers. She looked at the black belt still folded in the cedar chest in the hallway. She looked at her daughter's face, tired, road-worn, fierce. "Call Gail," Wanda said. "Tell her we're not settling." The hearing was set for Tuesday morning. Brock's team had 3 attorneys, a media consultant, and a medical expert. Gail Wilson had a legal pad, a box of signed witness statements, and one unanswered question. Where was the original unedited footage from Brock's phone? The night before the hearing, at 11:43 p.m., her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. No name, no greeting, just one line. "Check your email. God bless." Tuesday morning. Courtroom 4B, Mecklenburg County Courthouse. Wanda Moore sat at the defendant's table, in the only blazer she owned, navy blue, bought for her husband's funeral 23 years ago. Gail Wilson sat beside her, with a single cardboard box and a laptop. Across the aisle, Brock Anderson's legal team occupied half the courtroom. 3 attorneys in matching charcoal suits, a media consultant typing on a tablet, and a medical expert reviewing notes. Brock entered last. Neck brace, arm sling, a slight limp that hadn't been there 2 weeks ago. He lowered himself into his chair like a man in tremendous pain, wincing as he adjusted the sling. 2 women in the gallery pressed their hands to their mouths. His lead attorney, a polished man named Craig Sullivan, opened with a 15-minute presentation. Photographs of Brock's bruised ribs, a doctor's letter citing cervical strain and soft tissue damage, a timeline showing Wanda entering the gym, quote, uninvited with hostile intent. "This woman," Sullivan said, pointing at Wanda without looking at her, "is not a helpless grandmother. She is a former national champion, a 3rd-degree black belt. She walked into my client's place of business and executed a premeditated, calculated assault." Brock took the stand. His voice trembled. His hands shook, or appeared to. He described Wanda as aggressive from the moment she walked in. He said he tried to de-escalate the situation. He said he offered her money as a light-hearted gesture to calm things down. "And then she hit me," he said, voice cracking. "No warning, no reason, she just attacked." Gail Wilson stood up. She buttoned her jacket slowly. She let the silence hold for 5 full seconds before she spoke. "Mr. Anderson, you said you tried to de-escalate, is that correct?" "Yes, ma'am." "And the money, that was a light-hearted gesture?" "Yes." Gail opened her laptop. "Your Honor, I'd like to present Exhibit A through Exhibit AK, 37 videos from the plaintiff's public YouTube channel spanning 3 years. Sullivan objected. The judge overruled. One by one, Gail played the clips. 3-second excerpts from each video. Brock blocking a teenager's path. Brock shoving a man's chest. Brock slapping a woman's hand. Brock cornering an elderly man against a car. In every single clip, Brock Anderson initiated physical contact first. 37 times, Gail said quietly. 37 people. And you call yourself the victim. Sullivan was on his feet. "Objection! Prior conduct is not relevant to—" "It goes to pattern, Your Honor," Gail said. "It goes directly to credibility." "Overruled. Continue, Ms. Wilson." Gail then called her first witness. Derek Collins walked into the courtroom like a man carrying a confession he'd held too long. He sat down, swore to tell the truth, and gripped the arms of the chair. "Mr. Collins, you are the plaintiff's trainer, is that correct?" "Yes." "On the day in question, did you witness the interaction between Mr. Anderson and Mrs. Moore?" "I did." "Who initiated physical contact?" Derek looked at Brock. Brock stared back. Derek's voice was steady. "Brock did. He slammed money across her face. He shoved her. He swung first. I screamed at him to stop because I recognized her stance. She's a black belt. She's the Phantom. And Brock hit her first. I told him not to touch her. He didn't listen. The gallery murmured. Sullivan's pen stopped moving. Gail let the testimony breathe. Then she turned to the judge. Your Honor, I have one final exhibit. Last night, at 11:43 p.m., my office received an anonymous submission. The original unedited video file from Mr. Anderson's personal phone. Our digital forensics expert has verified the metadata. The file was created at 4:51 p.m. on the day of the incident. It has never been altered. She pressed play. The courtroom watched in absolute silence. The unedited footage showed everything. Brock calling Wanda a filthy black woman. Brock mocking her grandson. Brock circling her like prey. Brock slamming money across her face. And then, only then, Wanda shifting into her stance. Gail paused the video. She turned to Sullivan. Counselor, your client submitted an edited version of this video as Exhibit 1. This original file was on his phone. You had access to it during discovery. You chose not to disclose it. Sullivan opened his mouth. Nothing came out. His face turned the color of old concrete. The judge removed his glasses. He spoke slowly, each word measured. Mr. Sullivan, withholding exculpatory evidence in a civil proceeding is a sanctionable offense. I am referring this matter to the State Bar for review. The plaintiff's claims are dismissed with prejudice. This case is over. The gavel came down once. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Brock Anderson sat frozen in his chair. The neck brace suddenly looked ridiculous. The arm sling hung limp and theatrical. For the first time since this started, he had nothing to say. Wanda stood. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She turned to Brock and spoke so quietly that only the first 2 rows could hear her. I didn't come here to beat you. I came here so my grandson never has to be afraid of men like you. And so no child in that neighborhood ever walks into your gym and walks out feeling like they're worth nothing. Brock didn't look up. Wanda picked up her purse, took Gail's hand, and walked out of the courtroom. Diane and Elijah were waiting in the hallway. Elijah didn't say anything. He just wrapped his arms around her and held on like he was afraid she'd disappear. Outside the courthouse, a reporter with a microphone stepped forward. Camera rolling, red light on. Mrs. Moore. The court just dismissed the case. Brock Anderson's attorney is facing sanctions. The unedited video proves you acted in self-defense. What do you want people to take away from this? Wanda looked at the camera. Then she looked at Elijah standing behind her. Then back at the lens. I want people to know that standing up doesn't mean you won't get knocked down. It means you get back up anyway. And you bring your people with you when you do. The reporter paused, then asked one more question. There are thousands of people online right now asking the same thing. Will you teach self-defense? Wanda Moore looked at a grandson. 18 years old, standing tall, standing proud. The same boy who had walked out of Brock Anderson's gym with his head down and his bag still zipped. She looked at Diane, her daughter who drove 11 hours through the night to stand beside her. She looked at Gail Wilson, the small-town lawyer who fought with nothing but the truth in a cardboard box full of evidence. She looked at Pastor Davis standing at the bottom of the courthouse steps with 4 former students who had driven from 3 different cities to be there. Then Wanda Moore did something she hadn't done in 23 years. She smiled. Yeah, she said. I think I will. That clip, Wanda smiling on the courthouse steps, saying 3 quiet words, was viewed 6 million times by nightfall. Hashtag Stand Like Grandma wasn't just trending anymore. It was becoming something bigger. A movement. The fallout for Brock Anderson was swift, total, and public. YouTube demonetized his channel within 72 hours of the courtroom footage going public. The platform cited repeated violations of community guidelines involving harassment and deceptive practices. 400,000 subscribers watched his content disappear behind a gray screen overnight. The supplement brand pulled their sponsorship the same day, releasing a two-sentence statement. "We do not align with individuals whose conduct contradicts our values. We wish Mr. Anderson well." His gym lost its lease the following week. The landlord didn't even call, just sent a letter. 3 former students, the same ones who testified through Pastor Davis, filed civil suits against Brock for discrimination and emotional distress. A fourth, the white student who had quit in disgust, became their primary corroborating witness. The GoFundMe was shut down after donors demanded refunds. Craig Sullivan, Brock's attorney, was suspended pending a state bar investigation. Brock Anderson, 33 years old, went from local celebrity to cautionary tale in less than a month. And Wanda Moore? She kept her promise. The first Saturday after the hearing, she walked into the Garrison Heights Community Center at 8 in the morning, carrying a rolled-up mat under one arm and a bag of hand wraps under the other. Pastor Davis had cleared the main hall. Diane had printed flyers. Elijah had set up folding chairs along the walls. They expected maybe 10 people. 31 showed up. Women in their 60s and 70s who had never thrown a punch. Teenage girls from the neighborhood who walked home from school alone every day. A retired postal worker who told Wanda she'd been afraid of her own shadow for 40 years. A mother of 3 who said she'd watched the courthouse video 11 times and cried every single time. Wanda didn't give speeches. She didn't talk about Brock. She stood in front of that room and said 6 words. Left foot back, hands open, breathe, and 31 women shifted their weight for the first time in their lives. Elijah became her assistant. Not because she asked, because he showed up early, unrolled the mats, and started warming up before anyone else arrived. He'd watched his grandmother take a lifetime of silence and turn it into something that shook a courtroom. He wanted to be part of what came next. Diane switched to a local trucking route. Shorter hauls, less pay. But she was home every night. For the first time in years, the Moore house had all 3 of them at the dinner table. 2 weeks after the first class, the Garrison Heights City Council passed a unanimous resolution, the first of its kind in Mecklenburg County. It required all privately owned fitness and martial arts facilities to adopt a written anti-discrimination policy as a condition of their business license. Violations would result in suspension. The resolution was titled the Moore Standard. The local news ran the story. The same anchor, the same station that had first broadcast Brock's edited footage and called Wanda a perpetrator. This time, the segment opened with the unedited video and closed with footage of Wanda teaching a 70-year-old woman how to stand. The headline read, "The Phantom Returns: How a Grandmother's Stance Changed a Community." Then came the letter. Hand-delivered by a man in a dark suit who drove 3 hours from Washington, D.C. Inside was an invitation on heavy cream paper with a gold seal. The United States Karate Federation was awarding Wanda Moore an honorary 5th-degree black belt, the highest honor the organization had ever given to a retired competitor. The citation read, "For lifetime contribution to the spirit, discipline, and dignity of karate. For proving that true mastery is not measured in trophies, but in the courage to stand when the world tells you to sit." The ceremony was held at the community center. Not a stadium, not a convention hall. The same cracked floor, bad air conditioning community center where Wanda taught her Saturday class. Wanda asked for it that way. Elijah tied the new belt around her waist. His hands were steady, his eyes were not. The room, packed with students, church members, neighbors, and Diane in the front row, stood and applauded for 4 unbroken minutes. Wanda didn't give a speech. She looked at the belt. She looked at the room. She looked at the old cedar chest in the corner. Open now. Empty. Its purpose finally fulfilled. Then she turned to her class and said, "All right, left foot back. Let's begin." 6 months later, on a Saturday morning in December, 43 women stood in 2 rows inside the Garrison Heights Community Center. They wore white geese. Their feet were bare. Their hands were wrapped. Some of them were trembling. Most of them were smiling. It was the first graduation ceremony of Wanda Moore's free self-defense class, the class that started with 31 strangers and a rolled-up mat and grew into something nobody in Garrison Heights had ever seen before. Wanda walked down the line. She stopped at each woman. She adjusted a stance here, straightened a collar there, and whispered something only that person could hear. When she reached the end of the row, she picked up a white belt from the table beside her. The woman standing in front of her was 71 years old. Her name was Ruth. She had arthritic hands and a voice like warm gravel. 6 months ago, she told Wanda she had never raised her fist to anything, not even a pillow. Now she stood in a fighting stance with her chin tucked and her weight low, breathing the way Wanda taught her. Wanda tied the white belt around Ruth's waist. Ruth's lip trembled. Wanda held her hands for a moment and said, "You showed up. Every Saturday, rain or shine. That belt isn't a reward. It's proof that you were never as weak as you believed." The room broke into applause. Elijah stood in the front row, clapping harder than anyone. Beside him, Diane wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Behind them, Pastor Davis held his Bible against his chest and nodded slowly, the way a man does when he sees something he prayed for finally come true. On the wall behind Wanda, next to the Moore Standard Resolution framed in glass, hung a black belt. Not the new one. The old one. The one that had been folded inside a cedar chest for 23 years, waiting in the dark for a reason to come back out. The cedar chest sat in the corner. Open. Empty. Its purpose finally complete. By the time of the graduation, the movement had grown far beyond Garrison Heights. 12 self-defense classes, inspired by Wanda's, had opened across North Carolina. A retired boxer in Atlanta started one. A judo instructor in Detroit started another. Each one free. Each one open to anyone who had ever been told they didn't belong. The phrase, "left foot back," became a rallying cry. People printed it on t-shirts. They wrote it on protest signs. A muralist in Charlotte painted Wanda's stance on the side of a building, 10 feet tall, arms open, eyes forward. Underneath, 2 words: stand up. If Wanda's story moved you, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now and tell me about someone in your life who surprised everyone. Someone people underestimated, counted out, or ignored, who turned around and proved them all wrong. I'll read every single one. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. Maybe they're going through something. Maybe they've been pushed down. Maybe they just need to know that standing up is worth it, even when the whole world pushes back. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story like this. Because this channel isn't just about entertainment. It's about the people the world overlooks. The ones who carry strength nobody sees. Until one day, everybody does. Hashtag stand like grandma. Hashtag justice for Wanda. Hashtag grandma stance. Next week, I'm bringing you a story that's even more powerful than this. A janitor walks into a courtroom. No one takes him seriously. What happens next will leave you speechless. Don't miss it.
Something about this one won't let me go. Standing up for someone you love is scary. But you know what is scarier? Watching them shrink and doing nothing. Watching a kid walk through the door with his head down. Knowing somebody broke something inside him and just letting it sit. That's the moment. That's where you decide who you are. not when it's safe, when it costs you something real. And here the world doesn't tell you. When you stand up, they will try to flip the story. They'll edit the truth. They'll make you the villain. They'll cut the video short and parrot it around until nobody remembers what actually happened. But the truth doesn't change just because someone hides half of it. The full story all the way comes out, all the way. But what really stays with me, strength doesn't expire. It doesn't care how old you are or how long it's been sitting in the dark. The things you build inside yourself, the discipline, the courage, the fire, they don't disappear. They wait. And when the moment comes, they're right there, like they never left. So tell me, have you ever stood up for someone you love when the world told you to sit down? Drop it in the comments. If this one hit you, share it, like it, subscribe so you are here for the next one. Because standing up is never easy, but sitting down when someone needs you, that is something you never recover from.